let's take a look at how I edit together multiple cameras to produce a final video. This is just going to be a little taste of editing in Adobe Premiere, but specifically multi-camera editing and multi-camera editing using a custom Adobe Premiere extension I've written called Multicam Deluxe. Let's take a look. In this video, I'm going to walk you through one of the Adobe Premiere extensions I've written that helps us edit multiple camera angles in Adobe Premiere. This is an extension that will be open sourced and available. You do need one other extension that my extension uses called Creative Impatience Feathered Crop, and I'll have a link to both extensions in the description of the video. So first I'm going to walk you through working with multiple camera angles in straight, plain, vanilla Adobe Premiere, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what the extension does, how it works. But essentially, to cut to the punchline, the extension I've written basically creates a sequence with some additional virtual camera angles. After it does its work creating the sequence, it doesn't touch your workflow. You'd still edit the multiple camera angles just as you would in plain vanilla Adobe Premiere. The extension is only used to create that initial set of multiple camera angles. So let's take a look at Adobe Premiere and see how you would work with multiple camera angles normally. If you already know how to do this, and there are plenty of good videos on how to do this, you can skip ahead. There'll be timestamps below to the extension. But if you're new to multiple camera angles in Adobe Premiere, I'm just going to give you a little overview. So the first thing you'll notice with multiple camera angles, I've got the video file from my front camera here, and then video file from the top-down camera here. And the first thing you do in Adobe Premiere is you select the first angle, which is usually the front, and then Control-click to the second one. Now I'm going to right-click and choose Create Multi-Camera Source Sequence. I'm going to give this a name, Multicam Source. Multicam Source. This name has to be like this. I'll show you why in a second. Then you tell it how to sync up the two videos. Audio works very well. And then you've got some other options that we can ignore for now. So we're going to click OK. We're going to let Adobe Premiere scan these two video files and create a new, which is what is essentially a sequence, but it's treated as a clip in Adobe Premiere. And if I Control double click, it'll load it into the timeline, and you can see what we're working with here. It's basically taken the front angle video, it's synchronized it by audio with the top, so you can see the front started running first, then came the top. It's muted the track from the top-down camera, so you only have one audio track, which is what you want. Obviously, if your camera with the better mic was the top one, you'd have that one be your primary, your first selected sequence. Okay, so right now what you've seen is just two tracks on this sort of sequence. This doesn't help you do any multi-camera editing yet, but this is the first step. Now, you would do this whether you use my extension or not, but what happens next would depend on whether you're doing this manually in Adobe Premiere. If you were editing a multiple camera angle video in Adobe Premiere, normally you would right-click on this multicam source and you'd say New Sequence from Clip. Okay, so let's put this one aside for now and just focus on this, which is really, we should call multicam sequence now. Okay, so now we have a proper sequence in Adobe Premiere. That's the main thing that you work with when you do your editing in the timeline. Now if you look at it, it looks like there's just one video track and one audio track. But if we right click on this multicam source sequence and we look in this submenu multicamera, you can see it says enable. and it says which camera is currently selected. This sequence is actually holding multiple camera angles and is designed to let you switch between them. This little button here, Toggle Multi-Camera View, will help us see what's going on. So I'm going to click that. And you see over here in the left, here are both of our camera angles. And if we move around in this timeline, we can see they're synchronized. We're seeing both of them as I move through. The current one is highlighted in this yellow. So you could, for example, do your manual cuts. Like let's say you wanted this cut here, and you wanted this part to be camera 1, the front view. So I could select this and just hit the 1 key. Okay, and now this is camera angle 1. And then if I move here and select this and hit the 2 key, the numeric number 2 key, it's switched to the second camera angle. And now you can see they're labeled multicam source MC1 and MC2. And now we've done our multiple camera editing. Now the really nice part about Premiere is you can actually do those switching on the fly as you're watching the video, and even in super real time. So if I just start this playing, I can hit the number 1 to switch to camera 1.
You are watching Co-op for 2. I'm Jesse. And
Camera 2.
Spoiler free.
Camera 1.
That's my new joke, Jesse.
Here we go.
Camera 2.
I love because you basically
Camera
like I
1.
have to edit all of
And
this.
now if I pause, you can see there are the cuts. It's actually remembered. If I zoom in a little bit, as I was switching in real time watching the video, it was remembering what cameras I switched to and when. So it's a very convenient way of doing multiple camera editing, and of course you can change these anytime you want. So Adobe Premiere is quite good at this multiple camera angle editing, and it's a joy to edit and be able to switch between these. Okay, so there you have it. There is plain vanilla Adobe Premiere, how you would work with multiple camera angles. Now let's talk about the extension and what it does and why you would want it. So when we do board game playthroughs, we frequently want to cut down to a top-down view, but we want an inset of the front camera so people can see us and see us talking instead of just looking down at the table. So what we want is a little inset of us in here somewhere. And that's basically what the extension does. So I'm going to show you how the extension works, how you use it to do this basic thing, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the refinements. So first let's start by deleting this sequence I just edited, and we're going to come back with this multicam source. Remember, this is what we got when we just selected these two and told it to synchronize them. All right, so there's a big long README that comes with the extension that tells you how to install it and how to use it and what it does. But if you follow that and install the extension into your Adobe Premiere, then you'll open up its window by going here, Window, Extensions, and then let's just load it in, Multicam Deluxe. Here it is in this window here. If you click this options thing, you get some options. I'm going to leave this exactly how it is now. Actually, I'm going to move the inset to the upper left. But you see, you've got some options about where to put the inset and then what kind of cropping to do. I'll show you that, border padding. And then I'm actually going to turn these off. We don't need these for now. Okay, so I'm now going to click this button, and it's going to take several seconds as it processes this video and creates these new angles. So let's click this button and see what happens. Okay, so it's finished its work. It's listed what it did over here. And now let's click in our main sequence and see what we've got. Okay, so this looks very similar before. There's our multi-camera sequence here, our multi-camera source. You can see by clicking on the multi-camera view that we've now got 3 camera angles. Here's our front angle. Here's our top angle. These are the ones we're used to from our 2 files. But now we have a new virtual angle, which is the top down with the inset here of the front, and everything is synchronized. as you would expect it to be. And you can switch between those just as you would when editing normally. So if I just click play, I can switch to the front
So
view,
I should say, like in
top down
Welcome to
with the
Co-op for
front
Two.
inset,
We'll just be really fast about
top
it.
down
Wanna
with
do
no inset. If I hit the 3
I can leave it if
button,
you want, or you
2
can
button
leave it.
goes
Leave
to
it.
top down
Ready?
with inset,
Ready,
1 button goes to front view. So there you have it. Everything works as before, but we've got this new virtual angle which combines the two. Now, if you wanted this inset, let's say, bigger and in the lower right, we could just delete this sequence here, of course. Delete these little helper components, which I'll show you in a second. Let's go back out, and now we'll put the inset in the lower right, and maybe we'll make it a little bigger. I haven't done this in a while. Let's try making it scale 40 and click go. Okay, so here we are again. So if I switch to camera angle 2, there we have it. So you could always remake it with these, but I do want to show you that the way it creates this inset, this virtual camera view, is such that you can go and modify it after the fact. So let's say, for example, that we started editing, and let's just give ourselves, we'll switch to camera. We'll stay in camera 1 here. I'm just going to hit the 1 key to switch to camera 1. Then this is camera angle 2. And then we'll go back to 1 again here. Okay, so let's say we've done our edits here. And now let's say you decide that you want your inset here in a different position. But you don't want to delete everything because you want to keep your edits. So I want to show you what that looks like. If you go into processed clips, here's the multicam source. Let's go into that just to look at it. Actually, that's our original multicam source. That's the one that we don't care about that one. In this multicam components bin, it's created some working sequences. So here's our new multicam source, and here you'll see here's our front view, our top-down view, and then here is our newly created virtual top view. If we go double-click that, we can see what this virtual top view looks like. We've got here the actual top-down camera, which doesn't have the inset overlay, and then this here, front inset, is just this little, I can turn off this for now, is just this little overlay. You could see if we hid the top down, you could see this is just, the front inset is just this on a transparent background. All right, so let's turn this back on. Now let's go into that front inset and take a closer look at what that looks like. Well, that front inset is just this one track, but with some effects applied to it. So let's click on it. We'll switch over to effect controls and let's see what that looks like. Okay, well you can see it's scaled down to 40%. It's moved into the lower right corner. And it had this feathered crop effect applied to it. Now, CI feathered crop, Creative Impatience feathered crop, is a free effect plugin that is wonderful. It lets you set the cropping. You can see this is actually cropped in on the sides and on the bottom compared to the normal front camera. And it's also what puts this nice white border around it, which we configured in the options. Anything you change on this sequence is going to be reflected in all your edits in all your views. So if, for example, I just clicked position and moved this up to the upper left, and maybe I made it even a little smaller here. Okay, and move it over here. And you could do whatever effects you wanted. Obviously, you could do color corrections. You could change the cropping if you wanted to not crop in so much from the bottom, for example, like that. All the edits we do to this front inset, if we go back to our main sequence, you'll see they're going to be reflected in all of our edits with that camera angle. So it makes it easy to change even in the middle of an edit. Okay, so that is the basic function of the Multicam Deluxe extension, and you could do all this manually. You could create your own front inset manually, and then you could create a virtual top by overlaying that front inset over the top, synchronizing its time, and then creating a new multicam source sequence with this new virtual camera. The extension doesn't do anything you couldn't do manually. It just makes it a lot easier to do and a lot less prone to errors. Now, I'm going to show you one other thing that the extension does that's sort of a more specific, odd use case, but for board game channels, we actually use it quite a bit. So let me show you one potential problem you might have if you're doing this edit of the top down. So let's go a little further out here somewhere. Let's say let's bring up the multi-camera so I can see the top down view a little better. To where we open it up, maybe. Open up the box. So one of the things we do when we're playing is occasionally we'll want to zoom in somewhere. Okay, so let's say I want this section where we're going to be zoomed in, right? So I'm going to just click play. I'll switch to this camera angle with our inset.
Anti-hero, so you can use as a hero.
And then maybe I'll switch away a little bit. Okay, so here's our inset where we've got the top-down view. Now, occasionally when we're doing a board game video, we want to zoom in on something. So let me show you the problem that happens when you zoom in while you've got an inset. So let's go over to the effect controls here. I've selected this clip, and now I'm going to zoom in. Now watch what happens to that inset. Sorry, let me turn this off. Okay, so you can see a little better. So there I am zooming in, and there's the inset getting zoomed in as well and cropped half off screen, right? So if you wanted to play this, that would look very unprofessional. Now you've got a couple options. One natural thing to do, which actually works fine much of the time, if you're zoomed in all the way, right, and this is where you want to be focused, then you just don't have the inset. It's not a big deal. And maybe if you were zoomed in, let's say you were zoomed in a little less and you just had a little bit of the corner of the inset showing, right? Maybe you were even moved over this way a little bit more during your zoom. Okay, so another common thing you might do is just switch to the pure top-down view. So I'm going to switch right now. I'm going to hit the 3 key, and there I am on the pure top-down. There's no inset, but at least it's not cropped, right? So here's the view, the camera angle with the top inset. Here's the camera angle with no top inset. Okay, so frequently that's fine too, especially if it's a short period that you're zoomed in. But sometimes you are going to want that inset there, like if we're having a long conversation or we're pulling some funny face or whatever. And in this case, what you'd like to be zoomed in. Maybe you're even doing like a nice pan or whatever, right? Maybe you've got some panning going on where you're going from one side of the screen to the other during this view, right? And you'd like that inset to stay on this, to be shown and stay on the screen. Okay, so how would you do that? All right, well, you may have noticed that when the Multicam Deluxe extension ran, here's our multiple camera sequence right here. Now what's this extra sequence on top? You can see it's hidden by default. The video track is muted. Well, what this track is, if I turn it on, is it's another copy of that front inset, but this time not on one of the camera angles. It's actually on top of the entire video, but normally muted out. So what I do in these cases is I just go, I'm going to make cuts on all tracks. Okay, so now I've got our camera virtual angle 2, which you would, if this was, if you were on track 2 and you could see a little bit of the corner like here. Okay, so I'm going to switch to camera angle 3. So I switch to the pure top down, and then I take this section of the front inset on the muted track, and I just pop it up to this visible track. And now look what's happened. That inset is now overlaid on top of the entire video floating there, unmolested, and looks perfect. In fact, if we tell this one to always have the inset, you'll see you won't skip a beat. We'll just play through it here.
And tidy, which is nice.
Faster than real time. So there's the inset available even when we pan, and then as we switch, it looks like nothing ever happened. So you never realize that this is done on a different clip. So there you have it. There's the advanced technique if you want to do zoom and effects on the top down but still want the inset. Okay, I'm just going to show you one other thing here, which is an additional feature of the extension to create some additional virtual camera angles, which you probably won't have use for, but you might. So I've gone back, I just have multicam source. I'm going to come back here to the options, which you can toggle with this button here. And I'm going to enable these two extra checkboxes here to make a virtual side angle and virtual center zoom. And now we're going to click go. We're going to let it do its thing. Takes a while. Okay, so we're back with our multi-camera sequence. It looks the same from here. However, if we turn on the multicam view, you can see we now have some additional camera angles. So here are our first three from before. The front view, the pure top view, the virtual top view with the inset, and now three additional virtual camera angles. One close up on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, and then a zoomed-in center view. And you could switch between these in the same exact way. So if I click play, and then I click the one key,
Talk over it.
Let's not do it.
two
We don't
key,
have to do this.
No, it's
three
done.
key,
We're doing it.
Okay.
four
Just like it is
key,
live.
I'm just, yeah.
What?
five
Am I not
key.
allowed to speak? Is that how this
key.
works?
I thought we should just be like,
In
here's
silence?
this, here's this, here's this, here's this.
And then back here. Okay,
Okay.
so it's just doing standard multi-camera editing. It's just these additional sequences. And if we open up the multicam components here, you can see that it's created three additional virtual sequences here. One is the front zoom, one is the left zoom, which you can, and one is the right zoom. And again, just like before, these are created by making copies of the tracks, synchronizing their audio, and then applying some effects to them. So you could go and change this yourself. If you go over to the effect controls and select this track, you can see it's just zoomed in by 200% and moved a little bit. So you could make that smaller, make it bigger, move it around, etc. And once you make those changes to this clip, then that would be reflected in all of the edits you do in all of the video. So you can change that after the fact. And there you have it. There's the Multicam Deluxe Adobe Premiere Extension. It should be free and open source before the end of the year. It's especially useful for board game videos where you're doing lots of top-down camera angles, but maybe you'll find another use for it. Hopefully this is just one of many videos I'll make showing some behind the scenes video editing we do for the channel and going over more of my Adobe Premiere extensions. Hopefully it's useful to you.